it made me question my ability to hear God.
Yes.
It made me question if I was hearing all these other ways that I was leading the church and we're leading in these different ways. It made me question if any of it was right.
A lot of ministers fall. A lot of pastors fall. A lot of leaders fall because there's not one person that they feel like in a moment of crisis, they can call and say, I'm not okay. Yo, welcome back to episode 6 of the Preachless Podcast. And today we are focusing on the topic of what do we do when God calls an audible? We have a plan. We have prayed about it. We have had counsel about it, all those things, but God still calls an audible. What happens when God says, nope, you're going to go it this way? That's what we'll be talking about today. But first, before we get into that, we just want to be able to talk to you about this segment that we started calling Roses, Buds, and Thorns. It's kind of where we do our check-in and kind of let you guys get a note, and we check in with each other because obviously, y'all remember, that's what this is all about, is us two making time for us to be able to be there for each other. And so I'll start off, Zach. My first thing is this. So Roses, Buds, and Thorns. My roses right now, I would definitely say just overall kind of like how rested I feel. Like I feel like I've been getting a lot of rest lately. Nice. Some of it was a little bit forced, so 1 week I chose to go on this rest retreat. The second week I got sick with the flu. So that was like
oh yeah, you texted me that. Yeah.
Yes, bro. So that part, as far as feeling rested, man, it's really good. I'd say a bud right now. It's just more of the things that are kind of coming together as far as with the church currently in this season, and how I really feel like we're just starting to see tangible growth in people, tangible growth in actually, capacity as well. It's the springtime, right now, and we're about 3 or 4 weeks before Easter. And so it's kind of cool to see how there's already a harvest even before, I looked at church on Sunday and it was just like, man, like we about to have to be making some decisions about space and, chairs and things like that. So it's like, that's pretty exciting,
That's nice, man.
Yeah,
you might actually have to be on your stage.
Yeah, I actually might have to use it. Good gracious. And so, that's cool. I'd say the thorns in this, I just kind of like thorns in this particular season. I'd say for me, still kind of trying to get my footing on just like what my daily rhythms look like. That's still kind of like is bigger than what I feel like I can kind of like strategize. And so some days I really feel like really locked in. Other days I'm like, man, what happened yesterday? I can't even tell you. And so trying to find that, I'd say that those are my roses, buds, and thorns. What about you?
Good, man. Okay. Rose. I don't even know if this is really a rose. I just have to talk about it because I just thought it was so random. So I texted you this a couple of days ago. We randomly met J. Cole the other day.
Bro, that's a big rose, dude.
I don't know if it's but I'm being real with you. And this is how we all felt. So I was at Will, our worship pastor, him and his wife. They were having first birthday party for the little girl, Melody.
Okay.
Justin and Vic, other friends of ours, they were sharing a birthday party. Their son, Luke, both 1 year old. So we were just all there, and like we were about to leave. And I think it was Vic came in the house. She's like, hey, J. Cole is across the street at the school. They live across the street from this elementary school.
That's a trip.
And evidently it's where J. Cole went to elementary school. Now, if you're watching right now or listening and you do not know who J. Cole is, because we got all these church folk on here, and good for you. Okay. But J. Cole is probably one of the biggest rappers for the past 10 years. You would say,
yeah, big deal.
He's a huge deal, and and he's from Fayetteville. He is a Fayetteville native, and I've known that. And but here's what's so funny, and this is why I don't know if I'll call it a rose or not. So we all were out there, we're just watching. They were like filming something, and as his like he rode up with like 20 dudes. Like it was like a whole posse, and some of them were like security, and some were like, I don't even know what they're doing. They're just there. Like it's literally a posse.
Wow. And that was in the job description. Just hang out.
I guess, bro. Yeah, they were just all hanging out. And they're done with whatever they're doing. They're walking back towards the house, towards where their cars are. And my buddy Justin was like, hey, man, can we get a picture? And he was really sweet, man. He was like, yeah, he's like, just let me change my clothes real quick. Like he didn't want to be in the same music video clothes he had on. I guess it's like a publicity thing. And anyways, here's what's so random is like, we're all like, this is a big deal. This is a big dude. But like, none of us can name one song that he's done. I don't listen to J. Cole. I used to listen to rap growing up, but like I don't listen to J. Cole.
Yeah, no, you're not his target audience for sure.
Yeah, it was so funny because there's like this white person cookout, and then J. Cole just walks over to take a picture. But it was so obvious that like we were all like, this is great. We all met him. Like none of us were really starstruck. We're just like, this is really cool. And I asked him like, hey, so you went to school here? He was like, yeah. But it was just like so funny because none of us know really anything about him. We don't know of his music. And I was just like, I don't know what to call him. Do I call him J. Cole? What's the J stand for? Is it Jeremy? Is it? I'm like, I don't even. Nice to meet you, Mr. J.
What is the J for? Wow.
But it was so funny because we took a picture of them, and then I'm like, I don't even know who to tell. Like back in my teaching days, if I'd have told my students on Monday, like I met J. Cole, they'd have been like, But I'm like, I don't even know who to tell. And then afterwards, I'm like, why did I not invite him? I should have invited him to my church. Because I could have been like, hey, listen, brother, I know you're in town just for a couple of days. And I guarantee you, if you come to my church, half the people in my church will not know who you are. So it would be a great, a great place for you to come.
Yes.
And,
if you want to just hide out, here you go. Right over here.
But that was pretty cool.
Whenever Zach sent that to me, I text him back. I was like, you're definitely the mayor of Fayetteville now. Like you're definitely you meeting local celeb, not local celebs. That's a celeb
global, bro.
From Fayetteville.
It's a big deal. I just felt so bad that I'm like, we don't know who it is. We don't know anything about this guy, but that's okay. He was really nice, sweet guy. Okay, that was Rose. Bud we are at a place in our church where we are making the shift towards being outward focused and going. Like, so we're in a series called Heart for the Hills. And we're asking the Lord, give us a heart for the sand hills of North Carolina. And, I kind of walked our church through like, this is the most neglected region in North Carolina. The mountains everybody loves, the Piedmont, where you are, the foothills, Charlotte, Winston-Salem, Greensboro is a huge economic center. Raleigh, Durham, the Triangle, that's the educational center, the capital. Then we have the coast, the beaches. And then there's the Sandhills, who is like, and I told him, bro, I was like, look, Elevation ain't planting a campus here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no.
Maybe they will, but they haven't yet. And they planted one, virtually every other place in the state. And that's no hate towards them, but it's just like, it's not an appealing place. So we need to love this place well. So the Bud is, we are launching Heart for the Hills projects where we actually take specific initiatives to get outside the walls of our church and to serve in our community. We're going to start by the surrounding 500 or so houses around our church. We're going to just bless them here in a couple weeks, invite them to Easter and stuff like that. But I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
some of the poorest counties too in the state around your county.
They are. I read the statistics for our congregation on Sunday that like 8 of the 10 counties in the Sandhills are in the top 50 for highest crime. The top 3 of highest crime are all in the Sandhills. It's a pretty, and I told him, I'm like, I don't know how that makes you feel. If you're like, I want to make this place my home. It's like, then make heaven your home. This is your assignment,
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are, we're kind of at a Matthew 10 moment where Matthew 10 is where Jesus, like his ministry shifted from come and see and everybody's gathering to him. And Matthew 10 is where it's like, go and tell. And he sends them out to reach others. So that's a great Bud. And then my thorn is I'm training for a race right now. And I'm at a point in my training where I'm like just having to run a lot in the mornings. And I'm just being honest, like, I reach this point a lot of times when I do this where I'm like, why am I doing this? And like, I enjoy running. I really do love running, but I love running like on my day off when I have a long run or running here and there. But when I'm waking up on like a Tuesday and having to run like 10 miles, I'm like, and then then work the rest of the day and do all these things. I'm like, this is not fun. It's necessary. And I know it's serving a great benefit, but I'm like, this is not great,
Man.
So that's my thorn.
Yo, piggybacking off of that, like, because I think that is a great caveat. where is it that we see a lot of people kind of avoiding doing the hard thing right now? Like, where are the areas that we see people kind of neglecting? You know what I'm saying? Like, both whenever we got out of college, like, I'll never forget, we used to give this advice to a lot of casters, like, man, I want to go into ministry. I want to do all this. And we're like, yo, work a hard job. Go get a job that like sucks. Like, and work that mug, like be faithful there, get to know the people, all of that. Where do you see right now people neglecting some of the hard things that are good, like how you said about running and all that? Like, it's really good, but what are some areas where you see people kind of like neglecting?
Yeah, I think there's and I won't throw off on young people for this because I think it's a societal thing that's cross generational. This, cut corners, like kind of rise to fame or come into money,
Yep.
And so I think it's kind of a vice for anyone who has just kind of succumbed to pleasure-seeking lifestyle, or they're just trying to get things quickly and easily, or whatever. And we have all these phrases like, well, work smarter, and the other generations work harder. But like, I don't know, man. I think there's just something to be said for, because I don't think it's always just about what you obtain in the end either. I think it's the way you get there.
Yeah, it matters.
The great prophet Miley Cyrus once said, it's not about, what does he say? It's not about how fast you get there. It's the climb, right?
It's the climb.
It's the climb. But there's truth in that. I mean, like, I just think that in the journey to pursue a thing, the Lord prepares us to be able to value the thing. So if you do get a platform very quickly because you just blow up on YouTube, or you do get a lot of money because you win the lottery, the danger in that is you didn't know what it was like to have $5,000 and now you have 50,000, or you didn't know what it was like to shepherd 20 people and now you're shepherding 2,000 people. And some of how you are prepared to do those really big things and great things is you have to do them in phases along the way, and it prepares your heart, prepares your mind. And I don't know, man, I just don't think there's a substitute for that. I think there's a grace at times where, like, okay, if you do come into something big, that the Lord can give you a grace to handle it, and if it's his will or whatever. But I just really warn people of being careful. I love what I think it's Psalm maybe 84 or whatever. It says that the Lord bestows good things and that all good things come from the Lord. I'm botching that, but essentially what it's saying is, like, the Lord gives good things to those who can handle them. So if you don't have it, if you're like, why isn't the Lord giving this to me? It's because it would not be a good thing for you.
Yeah.
And it would be the worst thing for the Lord to give you something that's not going to bring about his will and his work in your life.
And I think that's a great word for a lot of people too, because sometimes when God isn't doing it on our time, we go ahead and we manufacture Ishmael, like, because we're talented enough sometimes, so I think about the person who is in obscurity, like talented, gifted, man, someone laid their hands on you and prophesied to you years ago, but God hasn't opened the door for you. And so some people get kind of leery in that space. And so they're like, well, I'm going to just launch my own thing. I'm going to just do this thing, and it's like, if God is telling you to do that, praise God, then go do it. But if God's not telling you and you're kind of just tired of waiting on other people and you're just like, I'm going to make it happen, it's kind of dangerous, because we live in a time where you can just make it happen. If you market it enough, if you got enough talented people, you can make it something happen. The difference is like the grace to sustain it, because you won't be able to sustain the pace. You just won't. Nothing you do would be able to sustain the amount of people who then start to like need you to do something. And when the grace isn't there, man, you will resent the fact of what that cost you at a certain point. And so I just want to encourage people like, hey, take the long route. Do the thing, do the necessary thing. Also serve another man's field. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, serve another man's field.
Yeah.
That is okay.
Bro,
Like,
you posted that this morning. I shared it. That was such a great word. Where it's like, if you have a vision, but you got to partner with somebody else's vision first.
Yes. Like, cause how in the world are we like trusting God to like, one day we'll have our own field, but we don't even know how to farm. You know what I'm saying? We don't know the first thing about farming. Well, the least amount of risk that you can take is serving another person, like, so that you can learn. I think that's one of the kind of missing arts. Like, there's a lot of popular courses right now as far as like coaching and things like that, but we're missing the art of just like walking slow with the person who has gone before us. Like, walking slow. Yeah. Hey, like, how did you do this? How did you do certain things? Now, we won't always have a person in our sphere of influence who is exactly where God showed us, but we do have people who have gone ahead of us. Like, and so I think that like that for me, man, is really, really big.
Yeah. Pivoting
off of that, y'all, like one of the times that I can think of that God called a huge audible for me that I was so grateful for, especially when we started thinking about like one of the first times I pastored, I was like 27 years old, and I'm so grateful that it didn't work out, because had it gone my way, like I would have probably been, I don't know, like pastoring a church there in a local town. It would have grown to a certain amount of people. We would have had prominence and all these different things. But I don't know if I would have learned what God showed me in these past, 5 or 6 years since then, that has made me a better leader. This made me a better man, made me a better father, all those things. And I think that there were certain things that I was willing to sacrifice for, or even to decrease in myself for acceptance of others, that I'm just so grateful that God had a different plan. I'm grateful that he had an audible that worked out. And that audible it didn't feel good, y'all. Like, that's the thing. Like, we got to get our theology correct, because just because God's calling an audible doesn't mean it's always going to feel great. Okay. Like, it's not going to be like, God, you're calling the audible. It feels great. We're praising you through it. It's like, nah, man, sometimes it feels like death. Sometimes it feels like, God, I don't think I'm going to make it through this. Like, is my mind going to like still be intact on the other side? Like, I'm doubting myself. I'm, like doubting the church, doubting like what you even called me to do. And sometimes those audibles, those are the biggest things that God puts in our life that really end up blessing us really big, but they don't feel really good. And so, Zach, I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on that. I have some more, but I just wanted to just kind of lead with my story of, I'm super grateful that God changed my story, that he changed the plan. But I don't know if you had any that stuck out to your mind, or those that you've seen.
Yeah, brother, I do. I got one that's kind of fresh, and I'm like debating whether or not to talk about it, but yeah, because when you say audible, I understand like the idea of like, oh, well, you thought you're doing this one thing, and then the Lord pivots and takes you this other way. But the lens through which I see that is almost solely disappointment, where I really thought the Lord was doing something, and then he just rips it right out from under you.
Yep.
And I remember walking with you in that season of that church, and like just the freshness of that wound of like, Lord, I didn't ask for this church. You put this church in my lap. That's how you felt, It's like, and then this, this didn't work the way I really thought it was. And I just remember like the disappointment that came with that. And then like, having you coming into pastoring this church, where it's like you were very hesitant to take this church because of that wound, and like, needing to heal from that. And that is my experience with audibles, in many times in my life. So the freshest one was a little over a year ago. I don't think I've ever talked about this publicly, I guess, but I think it's okay that I share this. I've talked about it with our staff. Our staff whole knows, they were with me on the journey. He's like, I really thought that the Lord was giving us a property for our church. Like, that was exactly what we needed. So just for context, our church, we're running 3 services some Sundays, our services are all full, and we're doing 4 on Easter, and we're just kind of at a place where we're like, okay, God, where do we go from here? And I really, like a year ago, like just door after door started flinging wide open this property that was perfect. I mean, it was like perfect size and like all these kinds of things. It was right here, right near us, about a mile down the road. And it came to me at the end of a 21-day fast, and started just having all these doors open. I was going out there to that property and praying around the property on a almost daily basis. Like it was like and for months we were sitting around the table of like, how are we going to lead our people through this and preparing and whatever. And in a matter of like, 7 or 8 hours one day, everything slammed shut. It just was like, I won't go into all the details, but like I just had 2 or 3 conversations back to back with different people in our community that completely shut that door for us. Yeah. And it was like, so I know people listening is like, oh, that's not like, traumatic or anything. It's like, and it wasn't. Here's what it ended up doing in my life. It made me question my ability to hear God.
Yes.
It made me question if I was hearing all these other ways that I was leading the church and we're leading in these different ways. It made me question if any of it was right or accurate or authentic. And in many cases, it in some way, like it slowly planted this lie that I don't know how to hear from the Lord. And when you're in the position that we're in, and there's a lot of people relying on us to hear from the Lord, like I think I said this in a previous episode, there's a lot of people who will question your decisions, but you can't be one of them. And I was questioning everything from that moment on, and it spiraled into a few other things that ended up coming up, like just a few issues that we were having in the church and in different ministries and different things that really took me to a dark place. And about the middle of the summer last year, like I had a nervous breakdown. I was running in a park and called Jill in a panic, and I'm not about to cry on this podcast, bro.
Oh, nah, that's real, bro. That's real.
And was on, I mean, I was, it was a dark day. It was a really dark day. I ended up having like a kidney stone that night. Never had a kidney stone in my life, but like, I think it was just stress induced. And, and it kind of culminated all from, and it wasn't like, oh, that we lost that property. It was like I was questioning, everything, just questioning, and that's how the enemy works.
Yes.
And so I walked through that, for a few months, and then had some rises and falls in the wake of that too, where it opened up. It made me get very vulnerable with several of our pastors on staff here, several of my closest friends too, anyways, that just kind of helped shepherd me through that season. And honestly, that was another reason where I'm like, I'm putting elders in place. I need people who are going to bear the weight of some of this. But brother, that is what I think of when I think of an Audible, is at times. And the reason I'm even hesitating to talk about this is because I still don't fully understand why God pivoted. Here's what I know. I know God is good, and I know he knows what's best. And I know that he has exactly what we need and all this kind of stuff. And not to mention, like, also in that season, like there were some other opportunities that came up and other properties. And I finally reached a place where I felt like the Lord said, get your eyes off buildings and property and get your eyes on people. And I've been in that vein now for about 8 months. And so I know everybody in our church is like, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it's like, the truth is, I don't know. And I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not looking. We're not. And there will come a time where we'll start looking and we'll be responsible or whatever. But I've just felt like the Lord has told me, like, take your eyes off of that stuff. But I had to trust once again that I can hear from God, and that just because God pivots and God, whatever. And JP, this is just me being raw and real and transparent.
Yeah.
I still don't really know if that entire time that the Lord was speaking those things and then he shifted, or if I just was not hearing accurately and it was just passion that I was really listening to, or it was just like my the pressure to have an answer for what's going on in our church, the pressure to find something that I was just really wanting it to be true and it really wasn't. I still can't honestly answer that. And there may be a lot of people who hear their pastor say that and they're like, well, how can we trust you? And it's like, don't trust me. You need to trust Jesus.
I think the two things can be true at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And so like we look at the ministry of the Apostle Paul, and Paul wants to go to Asia at first, right? And the Holy Spirit's like, don't go to Asia, like don't go to Asia. Later, the door to the tribe of Benjamin, everything, like then it opens up that then his ministry gets to go into that place. Like, so was the Holy Spirit like bipolar or what? No, it's just a timing and a grace. And sometimes there's a rhythm for us as leaders to be able, like God allows us to chase bones, man. Like he lets us chase it because also he's developing something into us as well. Like just the same way that we're always allowing people around us to develop, we're not stopping them at every turn. We're like, no, like, okay, see what comes of it. See what doors open. Like, see, you go, you get a no. And that's how we know. But it's the sovereignty of God that stops you with the totality. But I guarantee you this, when the right opportunity comes, you've learned enough from that last season, last year, that will help you immensely as it relates to real estate, will help you immensely as it relates to evaluating property, will help you immensely as it relates to city regulations and all those things. So nothing is wasted. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's easy for us to decide to be able to say that. But I think that sometimes, man, like God has a funny way of, for all of us, he gets rid of ambition, bro. Like he squeezed ambition out of us. And typically it's through that whole pressure of, but everybody's looking, everyone's looking, and I need to be able to say something. Like I need to be able to say, like, this is what we're doing. He's like, why? I think that's what he tells me all the time. He's like, why? Why do you need to be able to? And it's like, it's a good question. It's a very good question. And I think that that's what reminds me, and it shifts the pressure off in some ways too. And being able to also gives us grace and language for people who are also trying to hear God, coming behind us, bro. Like, we're like, hey, sometimes you're going to be crystal clear. Other times it's like trying to find a stick in the mud. Like it is like that. But what we do know is I don't want to do this by myself. I don't want to be in that place where I feel like the weight of everything is on me. Nah, man, I ain't trying to do that. I don't want to do that. Like, and I think that as we're open and honest with people about that, it's like it gets people free because God in that moment allowed you to also feel some pressures so that you could also speak to people who are going through nervous breakdowns legit in their life for other reasons. They have a different type of weight. Maybe their marriage is so heavy. They're facing their job coming to an end or whatever, and it just looks like they can't see through, and the pressure of that is crushing them. God will take us through whatever in order for us to be able to be a mouthpiece of his to get someone liberated. So, I praise God.
Yeah. Well, and I also think too, it's like God makes sure that whatever he's called you to do, you cannot do by yourself.
That's it.
Like he makes sure of it. So your calling always requires your community. And
say that again.
Yeah, your calling always requires your community. I love alliteration. But and here's the funny thing, JP, too, is like, and we don't always get to choose our community either. I think I shared this in a couple weeks ago in our church too. It's like, here's Samuel, who's called by God to be a prophet. Who's going to teach him how to hear from the Lord? Because he's living in the house of Eli and two wicked sons, and they don't, like, the Lord is angry with them, and nobody knows how to hear the voice of the Lord at this time. And yet Eli, this irresponsible leader, teaches Samuel how to hear the voice of God. And so you don't always get to choose the environment that God has put you in or the community that God's placed around you. And this is why it's like, you have to embrace where you're at and where the Lord has you. And you have to embrace the fact that you cannot do this alone. And yes, the people that God has put around you are exactly the people that you need in order to do what God's called you to do. So yeah, in terms of, the Lord pivoting and moving in a different direction, this is why the Lord sets us in prophetic communities.
Yes.
That he doesn't, I believe there are prophets, like fivefold prophets today, but I believe that the church is called to be a prophetic community in that we all prophesy in part. meaning that I hear the Lord for some things and you hear the Lord for some things. And I don't listen. Sometimes it is frustrating and weird. It's like, well, the Lord, Jill, no, who had a dream? My mom had a dream a couple months ago about me, and she didn't understand a thing about it. But when she told me the details, I'm like, ooh, that sounds like something that is fighting against me right now.
Yeah.
And I kind of understood it some. I submitted it to a prophetic friend of mine, and he had the interpretation. I felt like it was like spot on. And I'm like, now hold on a second. Now, Lord, if you really are trying to get something across to me, number one, why don't you just tell me?
Yeah.
Or number two, why don't you give me the dream?
Yeah.
Or number three, why don't you give me the interpretation? Why does my mom have to get the dream and my buddy get the interpretation and I have to receive it from them? And it's because the Lord always makes sure that you have to be connected to the community around you. I think it's Banning Liebscher that said, if you're not hearing from the Lord, it might be because you're not connected to the people who have the voice of the Lord for you right now. And you need to put emphasis on getting connected to them. You're like, I'm not hearing from the Lord. But you're not going to church. You're not in a small group. You're not submitting yourself to leadership or to people around you. And that's why, especially in seasons where the Lord's pivoting, we've got to have prophetic voices, multiple, that are hearing from the Lord and judging those words and giving weight to those words because we can get it wrong. And that's why I'm willing to say, like, it's a very viable possibility that last year I was just wrong. And yes, we were weighing it together. That's why I didn't lead our church in a public charge of like, this is what the Lord's saying. It's like, we were weighing it behind closed doors. I didn't have to come up in front of the church and say I was wrong, but I did sit with the staff and apologize to the staff and say, I'm sorry that I had this wrong. And of course they all weighed in on, discerning and a part of that decision. But I am very quick to say, we need multiple voices hearing from the Lord, and then we need to weigh those words together,
I think that that's the biggest part of what's missing a lot in the internet culture of prophetic today is people are releasing words without the accountability of the local assembly and how God designed prophetic words to be judged was in that local council of elders and those who are laboring, know those who labor amongst you. Like everyone ain't just supposed to have a word for the nations and their camera. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, like whenever we said like, hey, I sense the Lord saying this, it's supposed to reverberate with another person saying, yeah, that bears witness. Like, oh, I was just in this verse over here and God was saying, oh, I just heard this song that was saying that same thing. And so there is a multitude of counsel that is strengthening that as far as wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's happening in that way. And I think that because sometimes we're just scared of what people's feedback will be, sometimes leaders don't share it. Bro, imagine if you didn't have a safe space in jail to pick up the phone that day and say, hey, this is where I'm at. I need you. Bro, I had a scary time like that last year, beginning of 2024. I was at a lunch meeting with a person, just regular meeting. And in this moment, like I have at that point consumed something, not aware, like, but I had consumed a drink that had THC in it. It was crazy, bro. Like, and I unawarely am like not okay. Like I am I'm having a whole trip moment. It's insane.
That's wild.
And the reason why I say this is big is because I knew that I could call my wife in that moment. I knew that there was one person that I felt safe enough that like didn't matter that I was pastor such and such or whatever. Like, hey, Ashley, I need your help. Like, and a lot of ministers fall, a lot of pastors fall, a lot of leaders fall because there's not one person that they feel like in a moment of crisis, they can call and say, I'm not okay. Like, and so when the vice feels more accepting, when the world feels more open, then we have these guys who go and they medicate themselves on a bottle or a drug or a sexual experience. Like all of those things happen. And I think that as we're doing autopsies of leadership, man, we got to be real about, hey, in this day and age that God has called us to lead, we have to, one, have safety as far as, yes, our spouse being that, but other leaders that God has put assigned to us, other men, you know what I'm saying, that he has assigned to us in a way to be able to say, man, like, okay, Lord, I got this one thing I ask above millions in the bank, above you blessing this church beyond everything. Lord, surround me with wisdom. Don't let me do all this without men who have your heart and who can be able to hear my humanity. Yes,
Yeah.
have God's heart, but I need you to be able to, I need to trust you with my humanity. Like, cause I don't, like, if I don't have that, then I don't know how I'm supposed to last in this calling that God has called me to do that is clearly beyond all of my humanity, and
Yeah.
it's all in his divinity. And so I think that for both of us, man, I think that as I'm
It's
hearing
good.
your story and as I'm just thinking about just what I've walked through recently, I'm so grateful for people who can hold God's heart but hold my humanity.
Yeah.
I don't have to have it together with. I don't have to package it. I don't have to, I don't have to put that filter of church or Jesus glitter, as I like to say. But I can just be like, nah, man, like and like, then there's some people who are addicted to like every conversation has to be so real, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and real to them, it's like, you always gotta be broken.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. That starts to feel like so you expect me to spill my guts every time we talk. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. And so I think there's a balance. But you need friends who can hold God's heart, but hold your humanity. And I think that as you guys are listening, please, please, please value that. Value that type of
Mhm.
community. And then also have right expectations, because not everybody is called to like hold you down in that way. Like, because not everyone can do that in general at all, And so it takes us time. It takes a lot of time and discernment. But I'm just so grateful for that level of community in my life, because, man,
Yeah.
like, this gets isolating outside of that. It gets extremely isolating because everyone's looking at you like
Mhm.
judging your entire life by like
Mhm.
everything. And it's like, God, the biggest thing that I thank God for me and actually walking the season is our pioneers. And those are people who are over 65. We got a group of them, man, and they love us to death. I would have never thought that would have been the group of people who would have like really anchored me in this season. I thought that would have been like friends that I'd known for 10 years plus or whatever. No, it's been people over the age of 65 who have lived life, seen God, and see God in me, and are willing to serve the God in me.
Yeah.
And that, bro, that's humbling, 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 humbling. But it's also healing, because I would have never thought that would have came from that community.
Yeah. Yes. Like, I love what you're saying is so true, is like, there are a lot of people who they think they want to be your sounding board, and they want like you to be at, like, I mean, I'm sure you get it too. I get lots of people who are like, you could talk to me anytime. I
Yep.
know how hard it must be to be a pastor. And like, I know, and it's like, and I appreciate that. I think it's so sweet that people are like, I'm thinking about you. I'm here. And let me just say this definitively. You need to pray for your pastors.
Yes. Yes.
Like you should pray for your spiritual leaders. It's like, I would often say that when I was not the lead pastor. I would, pray for Pastor Bill. I remember the Lord gave me a dream one night of a warthog attacking me. It's like a big old warthog attacking me. And all of a sudden Pastor Bill stepped in between me and this big warthog, and he was, this thing had him by the arm, and he was just wrestling this. And the Lord was speaking to me and saying, like, your pastor is fighting things on your behalf that you don't know about.
True.
And I remember that being a big revelation. And I feel the weight of that, where it's like, there are things I'm wrestling with that I don't even think are about me. It's about the
Yeah.
people that I'm leading.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that to say, oh, you should be thankful for it. I'm not saying that, like, but I'm just saying, like, pray for your spiritual leaders, but not everybody. And I would dare say many people can't handle the full humanity of their leader that they want,
Yep.
because there are a lot of people. And I think this is what we have to tear down, is like this idea that the leader is not human. And a lot of people will say, like, yeah, we need to see them as just human. And it's like, but I don't think you do, because you want a hero to worship. That's
Yep.
the problem, is the church, just like Israel with King
Wants a
Saul, they
king.
wanted a hero. They wanted a king. They wanted somebody that they could worship. And Samuel, warned them. He's like, this is going to be your ruler. And if you want a ruler in the pulpit, he'll be a ruler.
Mm.
And then that's what happens is that guy up there begins to try to be the person everybody wants him to be, the hero who has no scars. And this is why I'm just determined, like, I'm going to tell you I'm human. I'm going to show you I'm human before you have to find it out in some way.
Yes.
And so I'd rather be the leader that's like, hey, last year I had a really human moment. And that might for some people be like, well, I don't know if I want to, that pastor sounds too fragile. I don't know if I want a pastor that's so fragile. It's like, that's fine. You need to go find someone else then. But I'd rather you find out by way of me telling you I had a low moment than you finding out on the front page of the newspaper that because he couldn't handle his low moments and he couldn't tell anybody about his low moments, he went and found the bottle to deal with his low moments, or the club or whatever.
That's been the story, man. That's been the story for years and years. As we look through just like countless stories of people who've fallen in that way, it's just been like, man, come on. I think that one of the things that I would like to like kind of close with this idea of how to deal with God, creating an audible, because to me and Zach's point, it's typically met with extreme grief. It's typically met with some type of loss or some type of like dark feeling. Like it doesn't feel good when these things drastically shift. And I think that for me, what I found a lot of peace in is practicing lament. We don't talk about lamenting a lot. Oh. It's not a form of worship that we give a lot of language to. But I really want to just talk with you guys just real briefly from this standpoint of, for me to be able to be completely raw and honest with God, that God just doesn't match. This doesn't match what I thought that you were saying. This doesn't match the goodness of you that has been experienced, or what I started to envision in my mind, what goodness would look like. This doesn't match that, but you're still good. And so through tears, through weeping, through fasting, through mourning, through all of that, we still give God what is due. We don't fake it. We don't act like it's not happening. We don't act like all of a sudden we're just faith-filled and we're fine. No, but we lament. We give him our emotions of that moment. We give him the lows. We give him all the heavy stuff, and we just make a decision in our heart that we're still going to worship God, though we're disappointed. We're still going to worship God, though it didn't work out. We're still going to worship God. And I think that what has been the tendency over the last, decade plus, Zach, is in worship circles, especially being a praise and worship leader. I've been guilty of this. All right, let's go to praise. Come on, praise before your breakthrough. And sometimes and I don't think that we do this on purpose, but I think that sometimes we haven't given people that is biblical to lament. Like, hey, even if it's not good right now, we serve a God who comes into that. Like, and he desires you worship him even in that. Like, so through tears, through confusion, through distortions, whatever, he still deserves and he still desires to be worshiped. And so I just want to encourage anyone who finds in that place of God creating an audible that doesn't feel good. Like your family would look that way. You didn't think that you'd end up, in this place of life where you are. God still wants to be worshiped by you. And I think that if you guys can practice the biblical form of lamenting, meaning inviting him into that grief and letting God space there. I think
you're pastoring me right now. I need that
healing,
is,
bro.
Yeah.
You know, and because it's like, God, this is the place. This is the place that, like, I don't understand it. I don't understand if it was you, if it was bad pizza, but like, that for me, it's like, okay, God, I need to now hold space and not be intimidated by the fact that you still see this, you see all of this, and you want to speak to this. And so no one has to be around for that, but it's the healing balm of God that literally, it's what we talked about 2 episodes ago with being sincere, bro. Like, and it's one thing to present the thing sincere. It's another thing to feel him covering you. That's what's making you sincere. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you feel him filling the cracks, bro, that is what I feel like a proper lament is. It's like allowing God to fill the cracks of disappointment, allowing him to fill Like he feels it. So it's two words. It's a pun. So FILL, but also he FEEL at the same time. He's feeling it and feeling it at the same time. So you're like, God, okay, you're near. You're near. So I just felt that, man, like just based off of where our conversation was going, because I was needing your transparency and vulnerability too today, because that lets me know that on some of the things that I've just felt like, man, I don't always know, and there's pressure. There's a pressure to know, we celebrate releasing words, but like sometimes we don't have them. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we don't have a prophetic word that gets shared. We talked about that word that I released this morning. Well, God doesn't talk to me like that every single day for everyone, but there are times that he's like, okay, release this word. And I think that your mom has modeled that for us. Because she's been releasing words to people for a long time, like publicly. And I've just watched her be faithful with that. But it's intimidating, if I'm honest. It's very intimidating, because it's like, okay, today on Wednesday, God told me to release a word, but I don't need to think that he's going to make me do it next Wednesday. Because now I start to go into
only speak when he speaks. Yep.
That's it, bro. That's it.
Yeah, that's so good.
So last thoughts before we wrap, bro. Like, you got any final thoughts?
No, man. I just think I love that lamenting is a posture of our worship, and I don't think I've given much thought to that. I know blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And I think if you go, I think we talked about this last episode about our roots and stuff. Like if you try to avoid tough seasons, you're going to miss out on very pivotal formation in your life, right? But I think it's funny because I'm trying to I set goals every year to like try to memorize scripture or whatever. And so this year my goal is like I'm trying to memorize at least one verse from every psalm. Like I want, no matter what psalm in the Bible, I want to be able to have like at least one verse in that psalm. And I got to Psalm 13. And Psalm 13 is a very low, angry psalm. It's like, I mean, at the very end, like the last verse, David's like, but Lord, you're still good. Most of the psalm is, how long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemies triumph over me? And it is just like, and I got to that psalm and I'm like, what am I going to memorize out of this? What do I want in my heart? And that's the verse I memorized, Psalm 13 too. It's low. It's hard. It's like, where are you, God? Why have you forgotten me? He actually says that in there.
Yep.
I'm like, I need to hide even that lament in my heart, because there are days I feel like that. Yeah. And I need to realize that that is a part of the collective spiritual formation of my life, highs and lows. And so, yes, I have all the verses of in those low moments, but God, you are true and you are faithful. But sometimes it's like, that's what's going to come up out of me. How long, God, must I wrestle, and day after day, and I, because I know the whole story of the Bible, because we know the whole story of the gospel, we can embrace even those lowest, darkest moments of scripture that were written for our good. Because I don't know. I mean, that lament word, I needed that.
Jesus models it, bro. Father, why have you forsaken me?
Which is Psalm 22, what David wrote.
Like,
yeah.
What? Like Jesus models being real. We do the church thing and add all this extra pressure to the human experience. Y'all, thank y'all again for tuning in today. If you've been blessed by this, please make sure you like it, share it, and help us get the word out. We're trying to have these honest conversations. It's not just raw for raw's sake, but we believe that we're really speaking to the heart of leaders, and we feel like we're having conversations who are necessary, for the time that we're living in. And so if this has blessed you in any way, please make sure that you share it with someone that's impactful to you. And also, we'll catch you on the next episode. All right, we'll catch y'all soon. Peace.